Hey there, it's Katelyn. I'm excited to talk about these pictures. I hope you're prepping for Christmas and having a great weekend. So I'm gonna get started right away. First of all, this is a great picture. It's one of my favorites that people have submitted through this whole process. So I just think it's beautiful, and the posing, the lighting is great. It's great because her face is still well lit, and his face is, has highlights on it as well, and it's just a really pretty shot. And so if I was editing this, I would do black and white as well. Sometimes, oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes I just really I adjust the exposure a little bit brighter than what I normally would do, and then I convert to black and white, and then I adjust. Um, a few things. So I'm just controlling the highlights here in both those different areas, both in the basic editing and then in the curves, darkening the shadows a little bit, and then I'll increase my contrast just a bit to make it pop. So that's probably what I would do. You could also lessen the darks if you wanted to. So that's probably how I would edit it, and to be honest, it's not a huge difference for what you had. So this is yours, and this would be mine. And so when you look at it, if you look at the dials, it'll show you exactly what I did to make it pop a little bit more. So really, it's just a matter of handling the curves of the image and knowing, how to make it pop a little bit more. So hopefully you can rewatch this video and just get an idea of what I did here. And to be honest, as I edit everything, I do almost the same exact thing to all of my images. So once you start to develop a style, you'll notice that you edit everything in a very similar way. So I think it's beautiful. It's when it comes to the specifics about this image. I the only thing I would say for improvement would be to remove the flowers because they're kind of secondary, and you can tell that they're there and that they're tied into the wedding, but they're kind of secondary to them. It takes the focus away from them a little bit, so I would just get rid of them next time. So this is a clean reflection, but yeah, no, it's beautiful. I really love it. So for this image, you really can't control anything when it comes to this problem here. I know it would be ideal if they were all scooted over about 5 feet close to the tree, but I think you did a good job. It looks like you already tried to tone down the highlights a little bit. I would do it even more just to make sure the whites are not as super white. Sometimes I darken the shadows and lighten up the darks, and that helps a little bit. You really did a great job with this. It's hard because I can't. I mean, if you were to improve this image and you could do anything you wanted, I'd say, okay, well, reposition the bridal party, but you can't do that. And so for the situation you were given, I think you did a great job, and you did a great job with exposing the sky still and having some color there. So something to think about. I mean, I like the rocks in the foreground. If you were recomposing again, and you could shoot this over again, maybe I would bring them a little closer to this quadrant where this line is, just to use the rule of thirds a little bit better. But that's really just being picky. So I think you did a great job, and the only suggestion that I would have is to tone down the highlights to try to make them look a little bit muted. So great image. You could even warm it up just a little bit if you wanted to. So I really love it. I think it's great, and how lucky are you to have a spot like that I hope you got to take portraits out there because it's beautiful. So let's spend a little bit of time on this because I know how you feel. You see these beautiful glowy areas, and you don't understand why it's not glowy and beautiful when it comes out on your screen later. There's a few things that I can help you with. One, whenever I'm shooting through a tree, like this, like the sun's coming through branches and it's diffused, I try to make sure that in my camera, when I'm looking through the camera, the sun is behind a branch. Because right now the sun is, it's directly shining into your lens, and that automatically creates a haze. So the haziness that's on them and the sun flare is because the sun is looking right into your camera. Also, whenever the sun is right behind your subject, you're going to lose pop because the light is coming around them. It's not coming from the side. When light comes from the side, it picks up all these different shadows and it creates depth to an image. Right now you just have a hazy, glowy image, and it's beautiful and romantic, but it's probably not what you were going for. So instead of shooting like this, if you had stepped over just a little bit over here and allowed the branch to block the sun a little bit, that haze would immediately it would have been gone. So that's something that I try to pay attention to. So if I was shooting here, I would move around until the sun was blocked by either that or this part of the tree. And what happens there is that you get rid of the haze, but you still have the glowiness on your subjects. Now, another thing that you probably don't realize is that they are having a hard time popping. Sorry, they're having a hard time standing out, I guess, because their heads are not against a great backdrop. Their heads are against the whitest, most overexposed part of the water. If their heads were over top of this, there would be a much better outline of where the lines of their faces and the detail of their bodies actually starts and stops. So here it just kind of looks blurry and fuzzy, and I know it probably isn't, but that's because of the way they're positioned. So if I was shooting this, what I would have done is I would have brought them closer to me, probably feet right here, because if you were shooting them with their feet right here, they would be closer to you, and their heads would have probably been right about here instead of been, right in the water. Another thing I would have done is to make sure that I was at a more of a 90-degree angle from the sun instead of being directly in line with it with my subjects. So instead of shooting, you're shooting from right here, I would have shot them over this way, and there would have been 10 times more pop in your image that way. So you could either shoot them over here or you could shoot them this way from this side, but I wouldn't shoot in direct line with the sun, or else you're going to end up with more of this and more of this haziness. So I hope that was helpful. And the reason I feel confident, talking about, what's wrong with this image is because I've shot so many images like this. And it took me a while until I realized, okay, gosh, what am I doing wrong? This isn't glowy and beautiful like I thought it would be. So if I'm editing this, I'm just going to change a few things. So whenever the grass is, because that sun's still pretty high up, so it's pretty harsh light. Sometimes when harsh light hits the grass, it becomes a yellow tone. So I just take some of the yellow out of the grass to make it not look so intense. And I'm going to darken some of the shadows, just the shadows, not contrast, not blacks, just the shadows. I will darken them just a little bit. I'm going to adjust the highlights because I don't want his head to continue to glow so much. And I'm going to up the contrast just a bit. So, I mean, it is hard to edit. I'm not going to lie, it's hard. But it can be done. And let's just see what the difference is here. What I did. It may not be that big. Let's see. So I just tried to I cropped them in a little bit because I feel like there's a lot of negative space here. And I think if the crop had been here and here, they would have filled the image a little bit better. So I cropped them in and I edited, just darkened the shadows a little bit more. But I really think, the issue with this is not editing, it's how it was shot to begin with. And so those little tips that I told you will be a big help in the future. So I think you did a great job. You did find good light. I would just back them up closer closer to you, and you could even back up from where you were shooting so that the sun is shining through or hitting right on this branch, and that the sun isn't directly in line with you and your subject. So hope that's helpful. Great images. I'm glad you sent this because this is something that I can look at and be like, okay, I know how to fix it. So great job, and I look forward to your last set of images. I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Bye.